So let me ask. First question: who are game developers here? Okay. Who uses Unity? Unreal Engine? Okay. It seems about right as it really goes. How many of you guys have been developing games for more than a year? Okay, more than 5 years? Okay, fair enough, fair enough. The reason why I didn't put a slide deck is not because I don't want to show you guys decks between, or slides that show comparisons between X and Y. I believe the workflows and the way that you work with a piece of software will ultimately decide what kind of product you create. I've seen guys make masterpieces on Microsoft Paint. And I want to compare the workflows that we've experienced as a VR company between using Unity for a project and using Unreal. And I wanted to compare basically how we've been able to achieve certain tasks, how we've been able to get a certain amount of work out in a certain period of time. And that's ultimately what my discussion is about. I don't want to treat this like a discussion as a talk where I tell you all the things that I found out in my life. Oh, great, the lights on. I wanted to create more of an open dialogue that we could share our experiences as game developers and not necessarily, bash one platform against the other. How many of you guys have actually developed for virtual reality? Okay, with Vive or Oculus? Both. Okay, and you? Okay, nobody's used Gear VR, right? No one's used mobile as well. Okay, fantastic. So here's what we found out in our experience, right? We've done two substantially, large B2B projects on both Unity and Unreal. I've used on both platforms, and what I've found is that I love and I hate both of them at the same time. They both have their own quirks and challenges, and some of those quirks are deal breakers. Do I need a mic? Or can you guys hear me? You guys can hear me? Yeah, let's. Oh, is it for recording? I'm sorry. Sorry about that. So, the one thing that I found with Unity that's a fantastic platform, it's easy to get developing. It's easy to start bringing prefabs. It's easy to start building environments. It's a really easy to use platform that's kind of built on the premise of what indie gaming is about. It's about creating things quickly. It's about making your ideas pull in front of you as fast as possible. But the aesthetics and the rendering that you can get out of Unity is nowhere close to what you can get out of Unreal. But the comparison is that you have to deal with blueprints, or you have to work completely in C#, in C++. C#, C++? C#, okay. What about you? C#, okay. Nobody here uses JavaScript in Unity? Okay, good, all right. Now, the one thing is that I come from a software development background. I had a substantially large software company a couple of years ago, and I realized that the difference between good coders and bad coders is the amount of time they can solve a problem. You can put a task in front of them and you can say, okay, cool, solve. And he'll hack and you'll put pieces of code together and you'll copy and paste stuff from Stack Overflow and you'll try his hardest to try and make this thing work. You have an average coder in front of you. Somebody who takes out 10 minutes, thinks about the problem, and brings it out in front of them and writes beautiful, legible code that compiles and works perfectly, that's the developer you want. But it doesn't really matter what language set they use. You can use anything. And what we looked at when we started building our VR studios, we said, okay, which platform makes most sense to us? Do we go with Unity? Because there's this huge open forum of thousands of people that completely share all the work that they're working on. There's so many pieces on GitHub, there's so much code out there to show and help people to get past the problems that they have, and so many people experience the problems and put it out there and the community's great. Or do we go to Unreal and we basically build projects that look like AAA titles? Because let's be serious, Unreal has that ability. With Unity, you have to put on all these other third-party applications to try and get that beautiful aesthetic that you're trying to create. But you can get all of that in Unreal. So where are the trade-offs there? Well, firstly, I hate blueprints. I think the whole blueprint system is rubbish. In Unity, you're able to create objects, game objects, change your meshes, everything's so much quicker, the panels are in front of you, you can have a play window, you can see exactly what you're doing, it's fantastic. But when you need to make that game object look fantastic, you also need to know how to use Maya very, very well, or 3D Max. You need to really understand 3D modeling more to use Unity so that you can get the best visual effect that you want out of your game. But with Unreal, the rendering is built inside. But all the meshes and every piece that you're trying to build has to come back from blueprints. So you have to be very adversed in blueprints before you can really know how to use the Unreal Engine correctly. When it comes down to the technical discussion about which platform is easier to work with and which one has less bugs, well, VR is a year and a half old. There's bugs everywhere in every fucking corner of it. As much as you think that you're able to understand how these meshes are going to work, you understand if the polygon counts are correct, you make sure that your frame rates are correct, and as soon as you compile, something's broken and you don't know why. That's just both platforms. It's either or. That's just the nature of developing. You're going to constantly hit roadmaps, or you're going to hit stumbling blocks in your roadmap that will, really demotivate you. We're struggling with something right now where we have this beautiful particle system that breaks apart meshes and then rebuilds meshes into the system, and it all works perfectly well. And then you integrate the VR SDK, it doesn't work. So what do? Copy and paste, you start running through the forums, everyone starts frantically going, and now we're using Unreal for this project, we still don't know what's going on. And if this is a problem in Unity, you'd be able to dash on top of GitHub, you'd be able to go straight to Stack Overflow, straight to the forums, you'd find a solution. Someone somewhere has struggled with something similar, enough for you to find that thread you can pull on, and then you can get to the end of the problem. But Unreal doesn't really allow you to do that. I made this decision that us as a company, we're primarily focusing on the Unreal Engine, purely because I think that the one thing that VR is really trying to capture is the realism. What we try to do every day as VR developers, we try to take you out of this boring world and put you in a beautiful world, a world that you're fully in control of. And you need to be able to create the most realistic space possible. Unreal allows you to do so, but you have to basically kill your GPU when you're running it. Right? These are the frame rate issues. You get less than 60 frame rates, the guy with the headset is probably going to start throwing up all over your space. And these two problems constantly conflict with us. But I chose the Unreal Engine purely because of aesthetics. You're able to get the visuals better than anything else. But we'll use prototype in Unity. That's basically where I'm at in terms of our workflow. We're able to do the same amount of work on both platforms in the same amount of time, if you look at the scale of the projects we take on. But the visuals that we want to achieve come out in Unreal so much easier. And they're beautiful. And the gorgeousness of just everything that you're looking at inside of the engine is fantastic. But there's so much more stuff that you have to do in Unity to get that same level of quality. And the bugs in Unreal for the VR SDK are much more than in the Unity SDK. I feel the Unity VR SDK is much, much more solid, if I can put it like that. So I'm going to keep the mic, but I actually want to kind of bring the discussion apart. I want everyone to kind of share their experiences of it, because a year and a half into VR development, we can't really say it's apples or it's oranges. We can't say it's this or it's that. It's the workflow that works best for you that gets you to the end goal of the product you want to achieve. And from my experiences, I just thought, let me come to a group of game developers, tell them where we were struggling, what we've dealt with, what the problems have been presented in front of us, and have that discussion and say, where are people actually succeeding and where they're failing, and where's the best platform and where isn't. So I'd like everybody to kind of, talk about the projects they worked on in VR.
Does it make a difference to your team, your organization, that the source code for Unreal is completely available in C++?
No.
You don't go that level?
No.
Change, okay.
No, I mean, so here's the thing, right? Sorry, yeah, in business as a game studio in South Africa, you have to be very careful about the choices that you make and the times that you allow certain projects. You don't have the luxury that larger studios have, or companies in other countries that get a lot more funding for projects. So when you make a decision to say, I'm going in this direction, and I need to achieve this for my client, or I need to achieve this for my project, you have to make every critical decision to make sure that you're alive at the end of that project, and you're not in a big mountain of debt, or you're in a hole, or you weren't able to deliver. So for us, we say to ourselves, the primary focus of our projects and our clients is aesthetics. So we chose Unreal. We work the hardest to get the best workflow out of it. We try to make the simplest solutions to get the biggest problems solved, and we say this is the way forward, because we are working on a knife's edge constantly. Startups, tech startups, game studios in this country, we don't get the luxuries. So we have to make the right decisions to make the biggest impact. And we don't want to necessarily go to the code level space at this moment. it would be a great place to be where we're able to scale our operation and start to build our own plugins and to build our own frameworks and to say how can we add and how can we make our own unique propositions on that. But that's time and that's resources that we don't have the luxuries of. So we try to take the quickest, simplest solution to get the problem solved so that we can move forward and we can get to the next part of our project and keep moving on and build that momentum. Because everything has to come out of your own pocket.
Right.
There's nobody else can do
I
it.
was asking the question to the extent that if you're finding bugs, like you're talking about the particle system, you can delve into the source code for Unreal, right? And try and isolate where the bug is and address it that way.
But then you got to say to yourself, all right, so I've got a team of 5 or 6 people. Who are those 5 or 6 people? And what are the skill sets? I'm going to have one game developer, and I'm going to have CG artists, and I'm going to have sound designers. And those are the people that are going to make that extra 20% that I need to sell this client on what the project is that I'm busy with. That 20% that you need to sell, that's the most critical part. So you need to try and figure out the quickest way to get there. When you get to a point where you've scaled enough that you've got 10 or 20 or 30 people, now that percentage of people that are game developers that can go down to that bare bones space to fix that problem and to understand exactly what that challenge is, you have that luxury. But in startup stages, it's difficult to get to that point or to allow the time for that. Sorry, do you have a question?
I wanted to know what the question was.
Oh, the question was, why don't we go right down to the source code and fix the problem? Don't have the time and the luxury. Yes?
I'm probably the most biased person in this room.
Sure? Because you're from Unity.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So I won't ask about that, but why do you personally believe that VR is all about photorealism when things like Surgeon Simulator and
Sure, it's about the game mechanic there. Yeah.
That's transporting people to a completely different world. What's the point of having another photorealistic world the same as ours anyway?
So I think that VR has a lot of different ways. It's like games. Some games are super entertaining and that carries the experience and that makes the user entertained. Some need to see visuals. Visuals is what sells them. Visuals is what gets them into the space. I found that in our market and the way that we present solutions to our clients and the projects we want to work on are predominantly around the visuals. Now I've used Unity for years. I've used the Vuforia SDK to do augmented reality apps for like 5 years. I love Unity. My only problem with Unity is that I have to add on so much more stuff to get the photorealism that I need for my clients. If I had to start a project tomorrow and I had the luxury of the team and I had the luxury of a project that I wanted to take on and go in any direction I'd want to, it'd be a harder decision to make. And I'd probably lean more around Unity because there's a large enough community of people that could help me achieve my problem. But when I've got like 6 weeks to build a product visualization system that needs to look photorealism for this client, I have to choose this platform. You know, it's not a choice of I hate one or the other. I love them both for their own reasons. But the problem that I have now as an entrepreneur and as a person trying to guide my ship, I have to pick the lesser of two evils and decide on which one I want to go with. Yeah, and I do really like Unity, man. I'm not here to bash it. I'm 100% honest. Yeah, that's just our viewpoint, you know. The beautiful thing about both Unreal and Unity is that the royalty system, right, and the cost of it. There's no cost. You can download these game engines and you can start developing today. And that's the beautiful thing that has kind of shifted the whole gaming space in the last decade, is the ability to build engines that you didn't have access to or you had to build from scratch, you know. And that is a beautiful thing. And I think one thing that I realized about Unity that I specifically like is that it's geared to be less intense on the GPU. It's geared to be on mobile. It's geared to be for the masses. It's geared, and that's why even all the AR platforms are all pushing through Unity. It's because you're able to compile for mobile, and mobile is the future in a lot of sense. But we can't knock off the console. You can't knock off PC. You can't knock off the fact that there are people that really want to see the visual, and that visual kills it. I mean, how many of you guys play PUBG? Right? Right? How many of you guys have tweaked with the GPU settings and the visual settings just so you can hide in the terrain, right? These are things that happen. We love the realism of games, and we love the enjoyment they provide to us. Each platform's different. You know, you can use Construct as well to do platformer games, or you can use Unity. It's about the end goal. It's about that product that works best for you and the workflow that works best for you. For us, we look for the visuals. For other people, they try and look for things that are easily modifiable, adjustable, and that they have the most control over. You know, and that's Unity.
One more follow-up question for your visuals. Have you looked at CryEngine, because that's also now available?
I know that Amazon bought CryEngine, right?
They've got a version of CryEngine.
Yeah. I looked at Cry a long time ago.
It does visuals pretty well.
Yeah, it does, but I never got a chance to actually sit down and play with it. You know, the thing is as well, how many game developers do you know?
Personally?
Yeah.
So a few, like two.
Two?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So to build an industry, you need hundreds. You know, you need thousands of people across huge amounts of spaces, from countries to continents, that understand this, to start to build the industry and to start to change the perception of what people think is a game studio. You know, we think of game studios having to be in the States, or having to be in Canada, or having to be in Europe or in Asia. And that's the truth, because there's an industry that supports the amount of people doing it. I mean, if I wanted to tell my mom 10 years ago I wanted to go be a game developer, I would have been thrown out of the house, right? And most of us would have too. But if you said the same question 10 years ago in Silicon Valley, okay, cool. Why not? Go for it. There was an industry, and the industry grew. And the amount of people that were involved in the industry told more people. And more people recognized it as a sustainable industry. And people respected the art, and they respected people for the opportunities that they could create. And those studios built, and more people got behind it, and the industry grew. Here we don't have that same luxury. So, you know, that's the thing that I feel, that if you really want to make a business work, or if you want to make a studio or a title work, you got to pick your battles, and you got to pick your battles wise, and you got to know which guns you take into the battle.